Monday, March 11th, the first day of this week's reading vlog. This week is all about death. We are reading Thunderhead, the second installment in the Age of Scythe. This is about futuristic science fiction Grim Reapers. Pretty cool stuff. We are also reading Death Note by Tsugumi Ohba, the famous manga about a man who finds a notebook that if he writes your name in it, you die. He wants to become God. He has a complex. Very compelling stuff. And we're also picking up Mort. I'm returning to the Discworld universe, Terry Pratchett's famous Discworld universe, and the Death storyline is one of his most highly acclaimed, and Mort is the first installment of that. So, a lot of different thoughts about death this week. Wednesday. I forgot to fill you guys in yesterday because I've been going through a little bit of a medical emergency. I woke up very early Tuesday morning, around 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was in incredible pain. I had a giant, radiating pain on the right side of my head, and then a bunch of blood and clear liquid started leaking out of my ear, and also some white pus-looking substance, like the consistency of cottage cheese. I know that sounds disgusting, but I'm just trying to describe it to you. Was falling out of my ear, and now I have limited hearing, and it's quite painful. Yesterday I couldn't fill you guys in because I could barely speak. I'm surprised I was able to film a video that was uploaded this morning, my top 5 Stephen King books of all time, because it was excruciating to talk because your own voice is really close to your eardrum, and it was just very sensitive. But today I'm feeling a lot better. On the reading front, I was reading some of Ray Bradbury's short stories. I read The Flying Machine, which is a short story about, political paranoia and how the establishment is wary of advancement, and The Pumpernickel. The Pumpernickel was quite moving because it tells the story, it captures the sentiment that, when I think of the sentiment, I think of the quote, "One day you and your friend played outside for the last time, and none of you knew it was going to be the last time." And I don't know about you, but whenever I come across that quote, it fills me with the big sad, because I miss a lot of my childhood friends. And that's one of the universal human experiences that comes along with growing up. You grow apart from your friends. You go different ways. Your lives grow more advanced, and they kind of fall to the wayside. And it's universal, and it's depressing. And this book tells the story of a man who goes into a deli, and he sees a loaf of pumpernickel bread. And he remembers the last time he saw his friends, the last time they were smiling, the last time they were enjoying themselves, enjoying each other's company. And the book ends and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to reach out to them." And he doesn't, because it's very hard to bridge that gap once a certain amount of time has passed. So, very thought-provoking work. I feel very blessed that I'm still in good contact with many of the friends I grew up with, because most people aren't as lucky. On the book front, I'm reading Mort, which is the first installment in the Death storyline of Discworld. Terry Pratchett's Discworld is massive, only over 40 books. And Discworld, you could read it chronologically, which is not the way you should read it, because you'll constantly be forgetting details and jumping to different storylines and timelines in this massive universe. Or you could read it thematically, following one storyline, and I'm reading the Death storyline. Because in the Discworld universe, Death is a person. He's an individual with a job. And sometimes he likes that job, and sometimes he does not like that job. And personifying death is just a very interesting trope, a very interesting theme that I love reading about in fiction, because I think that's one of the things about humans. We like to make unknowable, mysterious things relatable and knowable. And what is more unknowable, more terrifying than death? And what makes... And that just makes death a lot more approachable by making death an individual human-like creature. And it's quite thought-provoking. Death's insights about life and suffering and justice are incredibly thought-provoking. Terry Pratchett is the wittiest author I've ever come across. He's also the funniest author I've ever come across. I do believe that if he chose to be a comedian instead of an author, he would have been the best comedian of all time. Every sentence almost has a joke in it. It's what it seems like. The world is definitely worse off with him not in it. So rest in peace, Sir Terry Pratchett. I'm very happy to be back into the Discworld universe, because it's just such a comfort read for me. I love to think about things. I love to laugh. And I feel like not enough people talk about Discworld on YouTube. We're starting to get some people reading the Guard storyline or some of his more popular storylines, but Terry Pratchett is just like unmined. It's like just a treasure trove of enjoyment and escapism. Thursday, I had a pretty good day. My ear feels a little bit better. It still hurts a lot, but I was able to sleep about 5 hours last night, and that's an improvement from the 3 hours I got previously. My ear hurts, but it's going to get better, and I'm very hopeful and optimistic. I was able to go to the used bookstore here in Pahrump today, and I was pleasantly surprised. I got 10 books for $37.13, so that's a steal. Got some Stephen King. I got some Terry Pratchett. It was a good day. In terms of reading, I've been reading Death Note, which is a very successful manga series. And the anime is also very successful. I remember vaguely watching the anime when I was younger, and I was excited to return to this world, to this story that I have forgotten. And Death Note tells the story of a young man named Light, and he comes across a Death Note, which is a notebook that if you write an individual's name in it, they die. Light grows a god complex, and he takes it upon himself to rid the world of evil. He starts killing the world's most notorious criminals, working himself down to murderers, and eventually he hopes that once people see that the evil individuals are dropping dead, that everyone left in the world will live a lawful existence, following justice and all that jazz. Light's got a god complex, so I imagine it's going to end in a very tragic way, but it's been a very fun ride so far. And one thing I really like about Death Note is that one of Light's main allies is a Shinigami, a death god. And the Shinigami's main characteristic is like, he's bored. That's why he dropped the Death Note on Earth. That's why all these bad things are happening. Because a god got bored, and he found his day-to-day existence just so futile and boring and insignificant. And that's contrasting very interestingly with Death and Mort in the Discworld universe, because Death is very much disenchanted with his job. He knows it's his calling, he knows it's important, but it's very hard to wake up every day and do a job that no one appreciates you for. And I count myself very lucky because I have worked only a few jobs in my life. And right now I have my dream job. I fight in the UFC, and that's awesome. But I have worked jobs previously that I hated, that I woke up, I just put my time in, and I can't even remember too many shifts. It's just dead time when I look back on it. And I can't imagine just going to work every day and hating what I do. Friday. So I went back to training today. And I told people about what happened to my ear. And they're like, what the heck are you doing here? Go to the medical team downstairs. So after I was training, because I wasn't going to miss out on a workout, I went there and they're like, yeah, you definitely have a ruptured eardrum. So I was kind of hoping it was just a really bad ear infection. But it's kind of nice to know that I'm not a hypochondriac and that I'm actually suffering from something. What is the treatment plan? Don't get punched in the face for 4 weeks. I can do that. You don't have to tell me twice. I could avoid getting punched in the face for 4 weeks, focusing on technique and grappling and all the other parts of my career. So today, I'm reading my books about death, and there are 2 questions I've been meditating about, 2 things I've been pondering about. And I've been talking to people throughout my day, friends, family, asking them these 2 questions. The first question is, if you could choose to be immortal, would you? And my answer to that is obviously yes. I think almost anyone of sound mind in a stable emotional state would choose to be immortal if given the option. I don't care if I have to get bit by a radioactive spider, if I have to let a vampire turn me, if I have to have like Wolverine-like regenerative powers, Fountain of Youth, I would choose to live forever. Some people who are choosing to not live forever for whatever silly reason, they were saying like, isn't the fact that life is finite, that it is limited, isn't that what gives it value? And I'm like, yeah, that's a very like economic way of looking at it. Like life is scarce, so it is valuable. But honestly, like, I think you'd get used to the reality that you're not gonna die, and your time would still be valuable. I imagine like you'd still want to do things, you would still want to accomplish things because that's part of human nature. But maybe I guess on the other side of maybe the reason why it's a part of human nature is because we know we're gonna die deep down somewhere in our subconscious. The second question I was asking was, would you like to know how and when you would die? I answer no. because I don't want to be filled with anxiety. I don't care if my expiration date is June 9th, 2092, and it's super far away. I don't care if I have decades and decades of time. I don't want to know when this journey's over. I don't want to know when the ride ends. And most people agreed with me. Most people would not want to know. But there were some people who were saying, like, I would like to know the day I was going to die, because then I can have all my affairs in order. I can make sure to treat people the way I want them to be treated, to show love, to finish all the things on my bucket list, to travel the world, all these other things. And I'm like, if you're not already doing those, like in my head, I'm not saying this out loud because that would be rude. If you're not already doing those things, I don't think you would do those things if you were given like a time period. Like I was like comparing it to like when I was in school and my upper level classes, every semester you had a semester project and you had 12 to 16 weeks to do these things. But lo and behold, the last week of the semester, everyone's doing this, term project in like 3 days. And it doesn't suffer too bad. Everyone's doing it that way. And I feel like most humans, we procrastinate things because we've evolved. It's part of like the evolutionary history of us to want to be lazy, to want to, preserve energy. And if we can push something back days, months, even years, we will do that. So I think if you're not the type of individual who gets things done right away, I don't think knowing or not knowing the day you were going to die is going to affect how productive you are or whether or not you get things done. I think if you're a procrastinator, you'll be a procrastinator no matter what the circumstances are. And if you're a person who's a go-getter, early bird gets the worm, never wants to miss opportunities, I think it doesn't matter if you know when your death date is because you'll be getting things done. So I'm a go-getter now. I used to procrastinate, but now that I live a life that I'm passionate about, a life that I enjoy, I don't want to know how much time I have left. But what do you guys think about these two questions? Saturday. I'm very proud of myself for this week because the goal for this week, as part of my whole March Madness goal, which is I'm trying to upload 31 videos for the 31 days of March. Every video this week is a long-form content video, and that is very difficult. I will not be doing this again, I don't think. I just got done filming a series review for the Impossible Times trilogy by Mark Lawrence, which is seriously underrated, and I enjoyed it. Amazing. It was just an amazing, journey. Long-form content is difficult. I can't imagine being a YouTuber as a full-time job. It would be very stressful. You would run out of ideas. You would definitely have to be scraping the barrel in terms of content and inspiration. Last week was all about YouTube Shorts. And I think YouTube Shorts are better in terms of like finding potential audiences, but long-form content is better at building the community. And I'm getting a lot more engagement in terms of like people leaving comments and having conversations this week, and I'm very happy. So link to the 7 videos that were uploaded this week in the description below. Because I've been so focused on filming and writing out scripts and getting everything done this week, I haven't been able to read as much as I've wanted to read. I have just under 180 pages of Mort left and just under like 260 of Thunderhead. I'm only going to be able to finish one of those, but I think I'm going to try to balance it out try to make up for it by reading 2 or 3 Stephen King short stories tomorrow and finishing volume 2 and 3 of Death Note. That way this week we'll have some pretty good, numbers in terms of page count and works finished. Sunday, a pretty eventful, productive week. I uploaded 7 long-form videos. I finished 1 volume of manga, Death Note Volume 2, 1 book, Mort by Terry Pratchett, and I enjoyed them both. I ruptured an eardrum. I was dealing with a bunch of pain, but now I have very little pain and I'm just deaf on one side of my head. So, not good, but that's eventful. I also have been taking notes all day today for, I think, my most ambitious video yet. That's not saying much. I think my videos still suck. I'm getting better, but pretty ambitious video. It's kind of combining several of my interests, talking about one of my favorite authors and their political leanings and how it affects the fandom. And I think it's compelling. Hopefully other people agree, and I feel comfortable with the finished product, and I'm able to upload it. 517 pages read. Only 199 of those pages are manga, so better page count than last week. I'm very happy, very satisfied, very hectic, all over the place week. Oh, and I finished 2 short stories by Ray Bradbury. 2 short stories, 1 manga, 1 novel. So the main themes for this week are utopianism and death. Death because I'm following a Grim Reaper in 2 of these, and I'm following a guy who's becoming a death god in the manga. And utopianism because, particularly in Death Note, but also in Thunderhead, like, in Thunderhead, there is the utopia. In Death Note, Light, the protagonist, is trying to kill all the evil people so that way he could bring about the utopia. And I'm thinking about how utopian movements in general are like movements for young people. Because only young people could have the audacity or the naivete to believe that they can overthrow the current system and bring about the perfect world. Why utopian movements not work? Because once you have overthrew the system and you've implemented your own system, eventually that becomes entrenched and corrupt, and then other people are going to want to overthrow your system, and that's why politics is messy, because we're constantly swinging back and forth to extremes, finding an equilibrium in the middle. Society advanced to a certain point, and now that equilibrium isn't attractive anymore. It's not aesthetically pleasing. It's not enjoyable. And I think, because I'm 28 and I grew up in America. I grew up during the War on Terror, several divisive presidencies. Lots of changes are happening in the world. And I feel like across the globe, a lot of people from my generation and younger are like, this system is broken, it's not going to work, the world is on fire. All these things people are worried about. And I see some pretty radical changes happening. And I see a lot of people trying to achieve the utopian ideal in the near future. And I wonder what that's going to look like. And I wonder what's going to happen when, we overthrow the system, if we overthrow the system. I'm not a radical, I'm not that person. But yeah, thinking about the future and the radical changes that are probably going to happen and what, the world will look like when I'm old, because my generation and the generation younger than me are going to be the most radical generation yet. It's very interesting stuff. That's why I loved political science. And that's why I love, science fiction, because science fiction is all about the future. And politics is all about preparing for the future. And most people, because of the system we live in, we're too focused on the present. We can't think about the future. We can't think about making something better. We can't think about bettering ourselves. It's very hard to remain present. Yeah, very thought-provoking week. Next week, the plan is to upload 3 long-form videos and 4 shorts. I think it's going to be a more productive week in terms of page count. And yeah, I think it'll be even better than this week. Thank you guys for watching this week's reading vlog, and I'll see you guys next time.